Said if you have anything specific you want to share, pop it in the chat, anything you want me to hit on in specifics. So, welcome, guys. I am excited to share this with you today because I love sharing about how to use VAs in your investing business. It was so important and pivotal to me. It was really the number one shift that led to my success first as a real estate agent and then as a real estate investor. Hiring a VA is what allowed me to step out of the day-to-day, streamline the operations, and ultimately create the freedom to travel the world with my family while my business continues to run and to grow. And that's why I believe using a VA isn't just about saving some time. It's really a lot more than that, and it's your power move for scaling smart in 2025. And this is an example of the proof of being in the pudding here. As we were talking about at the beginning of the call, this is my daughter and I with Mount Fuji in the background in Japan. We travel full time. We're going on almost a year and a half now of doing that. And we were able to spend 2 months in Japan earlier this year as a part of that. So that really segues in for those of you who don't know me already to tell a little bit about myself and how I can help and share about how you can use VAs this year. First, I am a real estate investor myself who uses VAs. And also with VAs, I first started using them when I was a real estate agent. And I went from being a solo real estate agent to having a whole agent team with VAs as the operational backbone there. And that really became its own business asset that I sold and so now I don't actively work as an agent. I focus on real estate investing, traveling, and virtual assistants. So my husband and I do run a virtual assistant staffing agency, and I also work with real estate investors like yourselves to help you guys run it like a business. And I do all of that while traveling the world full time, which is really quite a joy. What I would love as we get into this is if you could take your business anywhere, imagine that you could be anywhere. Uh, where would you go first? Where would you guys go if you could go anywhere? We've gone to a lot of amazing places. We're in the UK right now with Portugal and Spain coming up next. Where would you guys go if you could work remotely? Bora Bora. I've heard it's great. Haven't been there yet. Any other places people want to share? Jana is in a point where she has traveled everywhere. She would move back to China, which is so beautiful and such a lovely place. I could understand that. Tammy would go to Switzerland. That'd be amazing. Love all these choices. Well, let's help get you there, okay? So first, I want to say why doing it all is a lie. You cannot grow and scale doing it all yourself just because there's a limit of the hours in a day, right? If you're doing it all yourself, you're limited by 24 hours in a day. And so that limits how much you can do. And so therefore, why do people not want to start a team? Why do people not want to grow and scale by bringing people on? Well, because leadership is tough. I totally understand if you're a little intimidated or scared of how to bring people on. Where do you get started? How do you task them? How do you oversee them? There's a lot that goes into leadership. And it's a lot. And the truth is, nobody has 100% success rate. Just like nobody has 100% batting average. If you're growing with a team, you're bringing on people to work for you and with you. Not everyone is going to hit it out of the park. You're going to have to deal with the fact that you do the best you can, you interview, you vet as well as you can, but not everyone is going to be an all-star. So that scares people. It scares people when they think that there's going to not be 100% success, right? We might call that like the F word of failure, which we know it is not. It's just a part of the process, but it's scary nonetheless. And yet, even though leadership's tough, even though there's not 100% success, it is the way. It is the way to get where you want to go. Because if we look at Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, uh, if you want to move into that business owner box, what does it require? It requires to be a business owner that your income does not depend on your active work. Before this, if you've moved from employee to self-employed, congratulations, gold star, that is amazing. And yet, when you're self-employed, you're still trading hours for dollars. And so to make that transition into the business owner box, you really need to have someone working for you. And virtual assistants are the easiest, cost-effective way for us as real estate investors to do that. And that's why I created this session. It's going to give you the tools, the strategies, and the behind the scenes systems that helped me lead virtually and delegate to virtual assistants and finally move out of being self-employed and into that business owner box. So let me show you a snapshot of what this looks like in my real estate investing. I chose just a few tasks to show you what the virtual assistant does versus what I do. And I would love for you to pop into the chat, like, which of these tasks would you hand off tomorrow if the right person showed up? And to help you understand where I'm coming from on this, I have long-term rentals, short-term rentals, and I do private money lending. So that's my investing portfolio and to give you a framework for how the VAs help. So first, VAs do my daily, weekly, monthly basic accounting and bookkeeping. They are keeping my QuickBooks up to date so that then I am empowered that I can go in, review the financials and accounting, ask about anything unusual, and really see where I'm standing at a high level. I know when I go in there exactly what my net income is year to date, exactly where that comes in from, all of those details, because it's always up to date because my VA does it every week. They also will pay the bills, submit accommodations tax forms, renew licenses and LLCs, all of that paperwork, administrative, back-end legal stuff. My VA is doing that. What I do, one of the few things that I keep control of is writing checks and wiring money, those things that you can't undo necessarily. So I do pay contractors who require a check. That's one of the things that I do. My VAs handle most, if not all, of the communication. Phone platforms such as Hospitable, which is connecting Airbnb, VRBO, and then also email. The VA is handling all of that as my front line, and I'm only responding to urgent messages when my VA is not on shift. If I had a really large portfolio of short-term rentals, or if some of you do, I would recommend getting a couple VAs and having 24/7 coverage. I don't need that, and so I do handle the one-off urgent things that happen when they're not working. My VAs also coordinate routine care and maintenance on all of my properties. We have monthly handyman visits for my short-term rentals. We have twice yearly HVAC check. And then we also have those repairs that always pop up, right? And any of those things, my VA is the one who's in charge of coordinating that directly with the handyman or the service provider. And let's say we have something new pop up and we need a new handyman. They're in charge of doing the research, finding it, reaching out, getting quotes, doing everything. And all I'm doing is I'm okaying big repairs and large expenditures. If we're spending several $100s or more on something, I okay it. Make sure that we've crossed every T, dotted every I, and it makes sense. And then one little piece here from the lending business is my VAs do a lot of the standard checks and paperwork, including like processing loan applications and then also doing monthly statements and all of that basic operations. I'm the one who's doing like the review and approval of those loan applications with the information that the VAs gather, and the other, again, high level decision making. So if any of these tasks resonate with you and you'd hand them off tomorrow, pop that in the chat, or I'm going to pause real quick in case you have questions or want to dive deeper into this or have questions about any other tasks. Yeah, maintenance is a big one. Tammy, did you have a question? Did you want to come off mute?
Sorry, no question. I was just saying that this makes me realize I need to get bookkeeping and accounting off my plate.
Good. Yes, yes. Nearly every real estate investor does. They need to hire a bookkeeper or a VA for sure. And so I want you to understand the important big picture is that you don't need to do it all yourself. You just need to make sure it all gets done. That's the important big picture framework that I'd like you to approach things with. And we're going to go through a proven four-step process to delegate effectively so that you can scale with less stress and finally free yourself from all of that busy work. Whether you're just starting out or you already are working with a VA, these steps that I'm going to go through are going to help you level up how you work together so you get more done without doing it yourself. Yes, Tammy is loving some of the same things I love in there. We're going to talk about open phone for sure. So the four steps we're going to work through is first, mindset. Second, determining the role. Three, getting the tech stack. And four, setting up the systems. And for each of these, I'm going to walk through what I call the most common delegation detours. These are the little things that get people off the path to success, right? Detours them And I'm going to tell you what you can do instead to be successful. And there are little tweaks that you can easily implement that are really going to yield a 10x difference in the results that you're going to get working with your virtual assistant. So again, whether you're new to VAs or you already have several on your team, there's going to be takeaways for you today. So let's get into that first step, building the mindset. And I'd like you to think about if you had 10 extra hours next week, what would you finally get to do? What would you do? Would that be something on your to-do list? Would that be something fun? If you had 10 extra hours, what would you do with it? Because I want you to really see what's possible as we start thinking about these VAs. You want to get in the right mindset and realize that you could help more people and do a better job and make more money when you leverage another person rather than doing it all yourself. That's a mindset shift. And a couple things that get in the way is first, not handing off tasks. It may sound silly, but it happens a lot. I've seen so many entrepreneurs, they hire a VA, but then they don't know how to actually give them work or what to do next. And so they don't ever give the VA anything to do. And after a few months, they just fire the VA. It happens a lot. So let's talk about how you can get started and actually hand off these tasks. The first thing is don't stress about filling up their 20 or 40 hours a week. Start small and easy. Start with here's one thing that you feel comfortable that you know your VA could do as well or better than you do. Start with that. Don't worry about, you know, making the whole house overnight. Start with let's get one thing handed over. And along those lines, focus on just handing off one task per week. If you set this as a goal, it gives you a metric to follow. And it also just starts that snowball effect. If you hand off one task per week, soon it's going to be more. Okay? And the third thing here is meet weekly. If you're meeting with them, it really helps push you to task them. You can't just forget they exist or ignore them. You are having that accountability, right? We all know in real estate investing how effective accountability can be. Having a standing weekly meeting with your virtual assistant will give you the accountability to help hand things off. And it prevents a lot of failures besides just that accountability. It's really something I think I recommend overall. And it's really a tiny habit you build into your schedule that helps success. I would say time block half an hour. That meeting will be 15 to 30 minutes, but that half an hour is going to give you hours and hours back in the rest of your week over time. The second delegation detour I see with mindset is people will view the virtual assistant as a second class employee because so often we equate something's cost with its value, right? If we spend $100 on a shirt, we equate that it is a higher end shirt than if we spend $2 on a shirt, right? And that's true in a lot of things, but with VAs, it's not per se, okay? So we have to understand that we are taking advantage of different cost of living in different parts of the world. So we are getting a high quality professional often for less than we could legally pay someone, like less than minimum wage in many of the states within the United States. So the fix here is to, think about that, to realize the virtual assistant's skill that typically they have a college degree. They are fluent in English. Even if they have an accent, they're fluent in English. I spent the month of January in the Philippines, and we're going to talk all about like Filipino VAs specifically. And in the Philippines, they're learning English in school from first grade, and everything is in English. If you go to a restaurant, that restaurant sign is English. That menu is in English. If you go to the grocery store, the items on the shelves are in English. Yes, they have their own Filipino language, and yet English is the language that everything is in. So if they are living in the society in the Philippines, they are seeing and interacting with English every day, the same as you do in the United States. So keep in mind there's fluency in English there at that level. They're also experienced in their field and they're an intelligent adult capable of learning and growing, right? This isn't just somebody who's going to check boxes for you. So this picture is me and my actual property management executive assistant VA, Noe. He's on the call here. This is me when we were in the Philippines. We did like a company party and I met him in person, which was really exciting. And I would share in my real estate investing business, he runs so much of that business that I now pretty much work 5 hours or less on a given week in maintaining it. And that's possible because I've given him a lot of the tasks and the trust. All right, guys, so now that we've addressed the mindset piece, let's talk about defining the right role. You understand the value a VA is going to bring, and yet you're like, I don't know how to give them tasks. So let's talk about a couple key detours here and the easy fixes. And I want you to think about as we do this, what repeat task are you doing that drains your time or energy the most? What comes to mind immediately when you say that? Because sometimes it's really important to hand off things, not just because they take the most time, but also because they take the most energy. So the first delegation detour I see people do is they hire for the wrong role. If you don't take the time to figure out what the role is, you think, oh, I want someone to do A, B, and C. And then I hire somebody to do A, B, and C, and they're in the role, and I realize, well, A, B, and C only really took me a few hours of my day, or they were something I enjoyed. And what really is holding me back are tasks D, E, and F. And that's what I should have hired for. It happens a lot. The good news is it's a really easy fix. And if you do this, I haven't seen it happen anymore. You track your activities and you make a list. That's what you do. And I have resources that can help you do this, but you just do like a time tracker. What am I spending? How long am I spending on it? How is it making me feel? You do that, and that you're going to see a natural job description come across from that. The second delegation detour is making what I call a Frankenstein role. And that is where you're stitching together all these different tasks that don't belong together, tasks that require very different skill sets or a personality, and you're expecting one person to thrive in that. So you wouldn't ask, for example, your CPA to cold call expired leads for you, right? And yet people do that with a VA. They're like, you're going to do my bookkeeping, you're going to do my accounting, and then you're also going to do cold calling, hardcore cold calling, expired leads. Like that's just not going, you're not going to have one person who's going to excel in those very disparate fields. And as long as you have an awareness of that and you can have an idea of building an aligned role where you're going to group things by skill set, you're going to be set up for success. So a virtual assistant as an executive assistant can do a lot of different things for you. They can do your social media, they can do your bookkeeping, they can do a lot of operation stuff. We want to do stuff that's going to match a certain personality type and skill set. That's what I think is really important. People don't think about enough, right? So if you're going to want somebody who's really detail oriented and who's going to work through those procedures, like in terms of the DISC personality test, somebody who's like a high C calculator, you're going to want to give them bookkeeping and admin work that's a good fit for that. If you want somebody to do cold calling and to do a lot of on the phone work like that, you want them to be a high I on the DISC, somebody who's very extroverted and can think on their feet and can establish rapport easily. Those are very different skill sets and very different personalities. So there's a lot of things they can do. I would just be mindful to group things that need similar skill sets and personalities together. And this is my husband with our VA, Armin, who does bookkeeping and accounting. He thrives in administrative work. He writes a ton of our procedures for us, but I'm never going to have him like answer calls from lost customers or something like that, because that's not going to be in his wheelhouse, right? So that if you do these things, guys, if you really outline the role and think about it beforehand, and you make sure that you're giving people assigned tasks, you're going to be set up for success when it comes to the role piece. So then you're ready for step 3. Plug them into the right tech. Ah, if you know me, you know I love my tech. And I want you to think about, where are you still acting as the middleman in your business systems? Because that's the first delegation detour I see here. We set up these systems, but they still need to go through you. And that's keeping you in the weeds instead of allowing you to be in the top 20%. So this is where you're forwarding texts, you're forwarding emails, you're passing along voicemail transcripts. If everything still has to come through you, you haven't actually delegated. And if you're mindful of that, it's pretty easy to fix. You can easily hook your VA up directly without things having to come through you. So, Tammy, here's a shout out to OpenPhone. OpenPhone is a voice over IP phone system that I love because it's really easy to have a shared phone line. It allows multiple users to answer and address the same phone number. So I have a property management phone number. That's what is on my Airbnb accounts. That's what my tenants have. That's what my cleaners have. That's what my handyman has. That's what my HVAC company has. It is a property management phone number, and I can get it through the app on my phone or on the computer, and yet my VA is the one who also gets it and handles it. If something came in after hours and it was an emergency, I would handle it, but other than that, I don't touch it. Another thing that helps a lot is a shared email address. So, like service at yourwebsite.com. This is nice because if you still want to see what's happening, if you still want to oversee it, you can get it. And it also is going straight to your VA as well, because you can easily do that shared. And then if there's anything that you can't do with the shared email address, I recommend using forwarding filters where you can route messages where they belong. So, for example, I have some like receipts that come into my inbox every month from subscriptions I have. I can't really change it to my shared email address, but I can set up a forwarding filter where that automatically goes to my VA so that I'm not spending time every month forwarding them a receipt to put into QuickBooks. It's just automatically happening. And then the last thing I would say is logins and account access. Often they can have their own logins with their own email. There's a lot of opportunity with different websites to set up different levels of accounts, right? You can be an admin, they can be a user. A lot of websites have that opportunity so that they can get in and do it all themselves. Now, this is a picture of me with our director of recruiting, Danica. She handles 100% of the hiring process for my virtual staffing company, and she can do that because she's plugged into the full tech stack. She's not waiting for anyone to get her logins, codes, updates. She just handles it all. She goes in, she posts the job, she reviews, she does everything herself because she's got the tech to support her in doing that. Now, I'm going to talk about one specific aspect of tech that I love. VAs and AI equals magic. And I see the issue where a lot of entrepreneurs are not leveraging AI tools to amplify their VA's time and output, often for a couple of reasons. One, you may not know the tools yourself. You may not be comfortable with them or even know what to do. Or two, you don't really value your VA's time. You're like, oh my goodness, they're so cheap. Do I really care if they can do this 50% faster? And I'm telling you, yes, with a great VA, you absolutely care. Okay. Noe, who's on here, he probably has 80 hours of work that I'm asking him to do in 40 hours because he's so capable that there's so much they can do. And you're going to see you're going to see a difference in your business faster if you're leveraging AI to help them do a better job and do a faster job. And so I want you, the fix is first to be aware of it and be open to it so that you can empower them with AI. Remember, AI isn't here to replace your VA, it's here to supercharge them. I know people think, oh, we're not going to need VAs or we're not going to need people because of AI. No, I use AI a lot and I still, like I said, have probably 80 hours of work for Noe to do in this 40-hour week. Okay, guys. So it's going to empower them and supercharge them to do more for you. Now, you can recommend tools you like. I love things like ChatGPT. I love that a lot of our other tools are using AI in them now, which I'll talk about with some specifics. The other thing is fund the tools. Buy the paid account because often you need the paid account versus the free one to really get the use out of it. And the VA can take the lead on this. You don't have to. And it's going to make a difference if you support it and you show that you're AI forward and want it involved. So this is my husband with John. He is my video editor and graphic designer. He's been with me for 3.5 years, since before AI was a thing. And he's incorporated AI over time as things have come out to help him do a better and faster job. So a few specifics is first, for graphic design, he's using ChatGPT, and we have a branded custom GPT trained to my business, my voice, my ideal client avatar, my brand style guide. And not only are we using that for like messaging, right? That's what everybody thinks about with ChatGPT is, oh, it can write words for me. It can give you layout ideas. It can give you that caption copy. It can tell you how to set up the visuals so that it is working with our voice and our ideal audience. So it can do a lot more than just give you the words to put on those graphics. Second, for video editing, he uses Riverside FM and CapCut's AI features. This helps with transcript syncing, or my favorite tool that we use there is the eye contact correction. So if I am making a video and I'm reading a script, or I'm doing a podcast and I'm like looking at the guest instead of my computer, there's this eye contact tool that you just, with the click of a button, it's correcting everything. So it looks like you have eye contact with the computer or with your audience with the camera the whole time. So there's so many tools like that that are built in. And if your VA is open to that and learns about them, they can use them, and it's making your content look more polished and it's making it a lot faster to edit. So those are a couple specific examples. And now we're on to step 4, guys, building smart systems. If you know me, you know I love systems. It's one of my key things. And I would ask, if your VA started tomorrow, what's one thing you'd want them trained on by week 2? I want you to think about, what would I want to hand off really fast, right? Think about that, because that's going to feed into the first delegation detour, which is you bring on a VA and you have no roadmap. You're stressed, your VA is stressed because you're just hoping they'll figure it out. There's no 30, 60, 90-day plan, no defined priorities, no sense of what success looks like. You don't have a target for you and the VA to work toward, right? And there's an easy solution though here. What I like to do is just map the first 90 days. You create a 30, 60, 90-day onboarding plan. What should they learn? What should they handle? What outcomes matter most in each phase? Like, if you want them to handle in the short-term rental space, let's say guest communication, what does that look like at 30 days, at 60 days, and at 90 days? Because you really are, I don't think you're going to expect them to be a master at every guest message at 30 days. But what could they handle at 30 days? Where are they going to grow by 60 days, and where are they going to grow by 90 days? I'm going to show you a picture of what this looks like for me. But that's what I'd say the fix is. And ChatGPT can be your thought partner in helping you develop this plan. You can have a conversation with ChatGPT about what your goals are for this role, about the tasks they'll do. You can put in screenshots of whatever you have so far in terms of any kind of role or upload procedures, and it's going to help you create the plan to get there. And something along those lines that can be helpful is have ChatGPT interview you. Say, hey, I want you, as a business operations expert in the property management space. I want you to interview to help me create a 30, 60, 90-day plan for this virtual assistant I'm onboarding to help with admin and operations. Something like that. And it can ask you these questions. And this gives you an idea of kind of what I like for my 30, 60, 90-day plan. I like to have a category. I like tables. I love tables. Right? I like to have a category, and then we can see where we're going to be at 30, 60, and 90 days. So this is for my property management VA role. And so if you look at the objective at 30 days, I really want them to learn and share responsibilities and to begin to manage tasks independently. I think that's a fair overall goal for 30 days. But then by 60 days, I want them to handle all the daily routine tasks independently. And then by 90 days, I want them to be able to handle those complex, crazy things that pop up and get me 5-star reviews, and really start to think about where can we improve the system as well. And that kind of great progression over time is what I put in for every category, and I get into specifics as well there. So that's the start with building smart systems. Then let's talk about, what about as you continue on, as they're continuing to onboard. And I would say a delegation detour I see is no system equals no stability. And it's people skip systems altogether because you don't know what to do. And you didn't need a system when you were a solopreneur doing it all yourself, right? The tasks could live in your head. It could be like that. They don't need to be a procedure, but that doesn't work when you want someone else to do the work and you want them to do it reliably, where they are doing a good job and they're doing it the same way every time. If you want that to happen, you need to have some systems. But there's easy. Let's give you the framework so you can do that easily. The fix is, I want you to remember that every task gets a home and a how-to. Every task gets a home and a how-to. Okay? What is the home? The home is your project or task management system. I like Monday.com as my home. And I'm going to show you guys some screenshots of what this looks like once we go through the explanation so you can get a visual. But Monday.com, every task is there. And there's so many automations that it's really easy and robust. So in Monday, I have, for example, a daily short-term rentals task. This is the task where my VA comes in, they get onto open phone, they get into Hospitable to check our messages, they check our locks and cameras, they do like all of our daily checks. This is a task that is one task on Monday.com. And there's so many automations and robustness in there that it's automatically assigned to them. They see a due date of today. They can have a spot where they write their updates about the task as they do it for today. And then when they mark it done at the end of the day, it automatically creates a new clean task for them to do tomorrow so that they're doing it tomorrow as well. So they don't have to remember what to do every day. It automatically tells them and it tracks everything. It has a lot of robustness within it to track it and do it well without a lot of work on your part. And then the second piece, the how to, is the written procedure or SOP. And for me, that lives in Google Workspace. So we have folders and procedures and everything written out in Google Workspace. And by the way, your VA is writing those for you, okay? And the Monday.com task links to that procedure in Google Workspace. So when my VA comes in and has to do the daily SDR tasks, well, to be honest, I think he's got it memorized and could probably recite the procedure from memory at this point. But if there's some things that are done less frequently, he just clicks on the link, opens the procedure, goes through, makes sure he doesn't forget anything. Okay? So every task, your system is set up when you've got a home, a project management system like Monday.com, and a how-to like in Google Workspace. This combo builds consistency without you being involved every time. And I'm going to give you one bonus that has really been transformational within this system for me. Screenshots. And I'll show you an example of this too at the end. In Monday.com, it is standard that for every completed task, when a virtual assistant marks it as complete, and I will say also when I do this on tasks, when I mark a task complete, I also, because I want to practice what I preach, I also put in screenshots as well. And this is proof that it's been completed, whether it's a sent email, an updated calendar, a processed payment. The visual proof in the form of a screenshot is always in the task. This small habit does two things. First, it gives accountability. They know they need to get it done and give me that screenshot. And two, it allows me to very quickly and easily review the task because I can look at the screenshot. So let's dive into what specifically this looks like. First, this is an example of my Monday.com board. I know it looks like it has a lot on there, but the nice thing is you set these things up once and then they just repeat whenever their frequency repeats for all your repeat tasks that are in your real estate investing business. And it gives the VA a lot of information, right? Is this a high, medium, or low priority task? What is the due date? It allows you to track how much time they're spending on each of these tasks so you can get an idea on that and how long it's taking. And then here's an example, just a top part of a procedure. Your procedures don't have to be fancy. I like a title, a short blurb about what they're about. I like to have a table of contents that details the key sections, and I actually hyperlink each section in that table of contents to take you to that specific section of the procedure. But it's just a Google Doc, all right? And then this is an example of a completed process or a completed task with the screenshot in it. You can see the VA wrote kind of here, this is completed, and then there's a screenshot. So I know it's done exactly as I was expecting. All right, guys, that's all 4 steps. I think those are little things that are really going to set you up for success. So let's recap your path to stress-free scaling, okay? Because scaling isn't about grinding harder. It's about moving from that self-employed box to business owner. So you're not trading hours for dollars. And the only way to do that is with a team. And that's what's going to let you scale. For us as real estate investors, VAs are the most cost-effective and easiest team members that we can add. And your 4 steps to that delegation success with them are the mindset, defining that role well, getting in the right tech and getting out of the way on the tech, and then having some simple systems in place, that home and that how to. And here's the good news. You don't have to stop at just learning these steps. I have 3 clear ways you can easily take this theory into action depending on where you are right now. So I like to call it choose your VA adventure. because who didn't love those books as a kid? The first is, let's say you've already got a VA, but you're like, my VA is not doing all of this and I'm stuck in the weeds a lot. I understand. So I have a course that can help you turn your VA into a rock star performer. It is the Pro VA system. And it teaches them how to think like a high-level executive assistant. It teaches them how to think about creating SOPs and those systems, and it teaches them how to think about and approach technology and AI. So this is a course you buy and your VA takes so that it is helping train them. And grab $100 off that course with the code POWERMOVE before it expires Sunday night, August 24th, if that's the best fit for you. Option two. If you want a VA, but you need some help getting there, my next VA Launchpad Live, which is a done with you course, kicks off in September, and you want to join the waitlist now to get the best prices and bonuses. We're going to open up that waitlist and start taking registrations next week. So make sure to go ahead and join that waitlist now to get those and get the best deals. And all these links are in the chat. If you're like, I have no idea where to go to them, they're in the chat. And if you're watching this on the recording after the fact, they're in the video description and details below. But I didn't put them on the screen because you can't click them on the screen, right? Now, let's say you need a VA yesterday. You're like, oh my gosh, I am so busy. I need a VA, but I don't even have time to do them. Workergenics will do it all for you. And so this is my done for you staffing agency where we find, vet, and train your perfect VA fast. And you get 25% off your first month if you start in August. So the Workergenics link in the chat is going to take you to the guide that you need to start defining the right role so you can get that role piece done. That's all you need to do in order for Workergenics to take the ball from there. So once you fill out your information to get that guide, you can schedule your consult call on the very next page. And if you get up and running this month, you get 25% off your first month. So all these links are in the chat. Grab what fits your path so you can start seeing the difference in your investing business. And if you're stuck or you're not sure what path to choose, just reply to the email that I'm going to send with these details or DM me on Instagram if you're watching the recording and I'll help you decide because this isn't about selling. It's really about helping you with the resources you need to grow your business where you want it to be. So let's bring it all full circle. You may have come into this class feeling overwhelmed or stretched thin, or maybe you're just frustrated that your real estate business feels more like a job rather than a passive investment, right? But now I hope you have a clear path, not just tools, but action steps to help buy back your time, scale your portfolio like a business, and step into some freedom. And that's why I built these pathways because I know what it's like to feel like you're working all the time and that isn't what you signed up for. All right, so I'll stay on for a few minutes now, and I'd love to answer any questions you have about the training, the offers, anything about VAs in your business. How can I help?
I need someone to help me create QuickBooks. I am not a accounting person on the double books. I mean, I understand accounting, I can read it and so forth, but I need a VA that would actually do the QuickBooks from the very beginning. And maybe even train me how to go in and see it and so forth. Somebody who's good at that already, who has that skill, which I don't.
And how many doors do you have right now, Jana? One? Okay. I'll be interested. I don't know if Sheena will go into this tomorrow or not. Some people recommend at that level to start with Stessa rather than QuickBooks, um, because QuickBooks is expensive. Like for what you get, QuickBooks is expensive, and so it may be easier or maybe worth looking and starting with Stessa because I believe Stessa has like a free option that people like a lot. And then the second thing I would say is either way, if that's a high priority for you, like, hey, this is not my strong suit, then you get a VA who has that strong suit or that experience when they get started. So, for example, when I was a real estate agent, I was starting my team, and I had to get more virtual assistants. And at the same time, my brokerage was switching with the system that they used for digital signing. We were switching from Dotloop to DocuSign. And uh, if any of you use DocuSign, I did not find it especially intuitive on the back end, and I did not know it. So I was like, you know what? I am going to say that it is a requirement that my next operations VA has to have prior experience with DocuSign and know how to do it because I don't. Okay. And so you can make that requirement. Now, I don't recommend doing it unless you absolutely need it because everything's a trade-off, right? Like everything's a balancing act. And if you're requiring somebody to know one specific system and master it, you may have to be more lenient on some other standards, right? And so I would just be aware of that. But there are times when you just need to do it. You need to say, hey, I need accounting and bookkeeping, and it is not my skill set to start with that. So I need somebody who's going to do that. Your other option is also you pay like an accountant or a bookkeeper to set it up for you, and then you in the VA take on the maintenance from there. Some people feel more comfortable doing that. And if you're working with a CPA already for your taxes, it may be that they have a service where they'll just set it up.
Great, thank you. And Sheena, I'm looking forward to your presentation tomorrow. I know you are a master at all of that.
Yes, looking forward to it as well. I definitely agree with Adrienne that Stessa for rentals is more cost effective and it's just built for them. So I would recommend that. But having some help with the setup because that can be tricky unless a VA is really experienced.
Oh, Noe also posted a YouTube Stessa video tour in the chat. That's so cool. Thanks, Noe. Um, that's the other cool thing I will say along the lines of VAs. So, uh, you guys know I have this course, right? VA Launchpad Live. That's hosted in a program called Kajabi, right? That's outside of the real estate investing world, but I'm using this to illustrate a point of Noe had zero experience with Kajabi when he started working with me. I also had zero experience with Kajabi as we got started on this. And so it would, and yet the cool thing about Kajabi and a lot of other things like Stessa is there are between ChatGPT and YouTube these days, I feel like anybody can learn nearly any system. And so for both me and for Noe, we are able to do like pretty darn well in Kajabi at this point. And it's because we watched some YouTube videos, and when we have to know how to do a specific thing, we Google it and either watch a YouTube video or we put it into ChatGPT and do what ChatGPT says. So that's making it easier. And that I think I've seen where when we've got a really like AI enabled, tech enabled, or savvy virtual assistant, and they've got that problem solving mindset, they can figure any of that out. That was a great question, Jana. We got a lot of good discussion out of that. What else do you guys have? What are the pain points and the scary things and the questions that you're nervous to ask because you feel like it'll make you look stupid? That's probably where we need to go. Out of your comfort zone, guys.
Hi, Adrienne. I don't know if you saw my hand, but I do have a
Oh,
question.
yes. Uh,
I have so many things that I want to do. How do I prioritize what I can maybe offload to a VA? It's overwhelming to just even think about.
as in, there's so many things you think that you would want a VA to do, and you're not sure where to start.
Yeah,
Right. What I recommend in that case is you give them things that you are already doing. So that you give them things that are already on your plate versus the things that are on your to-do list that you haven't gotten time for.
sure.
So that's what I would start with because then you're immediately going to see the hours back in your week. That's one of the key criteria. So give them stuff you know how to do. Plus, they're going to pick it up faster. And it's pretty easy these days. And I actually have something I can give you later, but it's pretty easy these days, like to use Google Meet or Zoom or Loom and share your screen, record a video of how you do something, talk through it, and get a transcript of that. And then you take that transcript and you pop it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT makes the procedure or the SOP from it. So I would start with things you're already doing that don't have too much of a decision tree, right? Where it's pretty much like the same thing every time, or maybe like two things, but there's not like 12 different paths it could go on, let's say, and you
Mhm.
just record it, get that transcript, and you can even, the VA can be in charge of making that transcript into a procedure. What I would recommend in that case is they go into ChatGPT. They take that procedure, excuse me, that transcript. They ask ChatGPT to make it a procedure. Then I recommend they do watch the entire recording and go ahead and fine tune the procedure because I do find sometimes ChatGPT oversimplifies things.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because I'm really particular, but I'm like, I don't want it that simple. I want all my details. But that's what I'd say is something off your plate, something that's relatively linear that you can hand off to them. And then there's also the psychological aspect of, and there can be two pieces of this. One, things that are really heavy for you. That's something that I would focus and prioritize in handing off. And two, things that you're more that you feel pretty comfortable handing off, right? Like for example, I you wouldn't have your kid carry like their precious china when they're first starting to walk, but you're okay with them carrying like a wood bowl, right? To compare the two. So that kind of thing of like, don't give your VA something where like if it breaks or if they make a little mistake, it's going to be a really costly mistake. Like, because nobody's going to be like nobody's batting 1,000 in Little League. There's going to be some hiccups along the way. So give them stuff where it's like that wood bowl. It's okay if it gets dropped as they're figuring it out.
Mhm. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you, Tammy. All right, guys, you've had some really great questions and been awesome listeners. So I'm not going to keep you any longer than you need, but I want to throw out again. If anybody else has a question, Heidi, I did not see your hand, Tammy, so I appreciate you just coming off mute and making it happen. Sheena has something.
I have a question. So I have a VA that had worked with the Go Abundance, so I knew she had great experience that way. My issue is I know I'm the bottleneck because I give her work and she's amazing and gets it so done so quick, like Noe, it sounds like in your VAs. Then how my I think it's just time blocking time to review and follow up. And that's where it was almost like I got in the mindset, I can set it and forget it, but then I couldn't keep up with giving next tasks or reviewing. And she just had everything so done. And she's like, I need feedback. And I just couldn't give it to her. So just tips to get started that way. I dropped her hours a bit just because I got so busy and really
Mhm.
want to rein that back in to help as well. So that's my big issue. I know it's me.
No, it is not you at all. It is super, super common. And I feel you. I definitely have at least one task that I was just looking at that I'm like, my VA finished 6 days ago and needs to review. So, but here's what I would say helps with that. First, giving them tasks that they can do every week. So for you, an example I would think of would be like an email newsletter, right? They could do the email newsletter, they could do social media, they could do the same thing every week where your review is either like a 1, 2 minute skim or it's no review at all because you know it's so automated and they're dialed in, right? That's one thing is giving them the repeating task that they can do again and again. And then the second thing would be when you're at this point where you're the bottleneck and they're doing so much, that's when I would start to move beyond what we were talking about with Tammy. And I would start to give them those things on your wish list. I would start to be like, maybe you want to start a podcast, right? I'm like thinking about for you and your stuff. I don't know. But let's use that as an example. But you're like, I have no experience with a podcast, right? That's where I would spend maybe like 10 minutes of being like, hey, I want to start a podcast. Here's what I'm worried about. Here's what I don't know how to do. Here's my like thoughts on this. And can you go research and figure out how we would do this, right? Like if you're like, I know I'd want to DIY, and so figure out like how do we DIY? Where do we record? How do we post? What do we do for that? Or if you're like, nope, I know I'm going to want to use a podcast service that's going to do the editing and everything for me, then they can go research and vet those and bring you a list. Or if you're like, I have no idea what I want to do, what are my options, right? They can go do some initial research there and bring it to you. And then you can say A or B, and then they can go on from there. So that's where I'd start to let them kind of, because they can do that in-depth research on that stuff that is on your wish list that you haven't had time yet for.
Yeah, and I did start that just a follow-up thought because I want more speaking opportunities to get in front of more audiences. So I had my VA create a list of the different conferences or podcasts, but it wasn't, I guess this again, I need to go back and figure out, okay, good, great start, but here's what I need, and then not next steps. Because once I had that information, I didn't have time to apply for them.
Right.
So giving her more power to then apply, and here's the quick things you could enter, and
Mhm.
make that more streamlined, and keep continuing to move that along. Sounds like.
Right. And that's totally, I feel you. You're like, okay, you did all this, but I don't have time for the next steps. And that's
Yeah.
where something that can help with that is on your comfort level. If you are at the point where you feel like you can, in 10 minutes, give them everything they know where they can apply for you themselves, or if you're comfortable, hey, they can draft the emails in your email and then you just review, do any little tweaks and hit send to apply, that's still faster than you doing it all from scratch, right? And when you start to think about, oh, well, it's just putting it together in an email, still copy paste, because formatting and everything, like then putting it in Google Drive or some actually and it's pretty easy to do shared email access, at least in Google. And if they're just drafting and not sending, that could be something that could help as well. Because yeah, you want to pass off as much of that as you can, because otherwise you will be the bottleneck for sure.
Thank you.
And Tammy, you had a question. Do you have a VA set goals? Like, do they set their own goals for like their quarter and their tasks and things like that? Is that what you're kind of asking?
It may have been the other Tammy.
Oh, yes. Is she gone now?
I think so.
Uh, okay, well, I'll say it for the recording in case she comes back on. Uh, a lot of VAs are not used to setting goals. They're used to being told, here are my tasks and what I do. And yet, if you're like, hey, we're going to do this together, we're going to have goal setting because it's something you do, it is something that I've had success with virtual assistants doing, right? Where they're setting their own goals for their quarter. So I showed you John, our video editing VA. He, along with all the Vs on like our admin team for Workogenics, they set goals within their role every quarter of what they're going to do. So like last quarter, John's focus was to research and get better on his graphic design with some colors and design elements and things like that, as an example. So it's not something most people ask VAs to do. So keep in mind, if you do, your VA is going to maybe look at you like you have three eyes at first because it's going to be new to them. And yet it is something I've had success with. Just realize that first version, if like I think about before you ever set goals, that first version isn't going to be gold. It's going to take a few times to get used to figuring out what does goal setting look like and how do we do that successfully, like with anything. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. These have been some great questions. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up unless there's anything else. Like, shout if you need anything. Otherwise, I'm excited to see you all tomorrow when we're going to hear from Sheena.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Adrienne.
guys. All right. Bye.
Bye.